so hot in July and August. If you're hot, your guinea pig feels even hotter. Heat is something that guinea pigs are especially susceptible to. Here are 15 ways to help your guinea pigs beat the heat. So obviously this couldn't be a video about keeping your guinea pigs cool without saying the gold standard #1 option is AC. Of course, nothing beats air conditioning to cool them down. Unfortunately, not everyone is able to. Some people have air conditioners that don't work as well. The first tip is to use air conditioning if you have it, or to move your guinea pigs to an area with air conditioning if you're able to. You can also use like room air conditioners and just air condition one room and have your guinea pigs in that room. I understand that's not possible for everybody. The second tip is to check their water very frequently. They may be drinking a lot more water if they are warmer, so you're gonna wanna check that. God forbid they knock the water bottle over or it drips a bunch or something, especially because like temperature changes can also mess with like pressure and things. So your water bottle could just empty itself out. You have no idea. So just make sure you're checking it a few times throughout the day so that they don't go long periods of time without water. And while you're at it, maybe give your water bottles a little clean, and if you don't trust them, just add a bowl in there. Tip #3 is to add ice cubes into their water bottle and or water bowl. You don't want to have so many ice cubes that like they drink out all the water and there's none left because it's all ice, and you don't want so many ice cubes that the water is like super cold. You just want a couple of ice cubes just so that it keeps the water cool, so the water doesn't get warm, basically, is the goal. But you never want to just like give your guinea pigs ice cubes. Don't do that. You want it to either be in a bowl where it gets wet and there's just one and it'll go down pretty quickly, or in a bottle where they can't actually reach the ice cube itself. Tip #4 is to freeze fruits or veggies. There's a big warning on this where, like I said, you don't want to give them ice cubes. Same thing with like, I wouldn't want to freeze watermelon and give it to them because it has such a high water content that I'm essentially giving them an ice cube that they're gonna want to eat, and I don't want them to crack their teeth on it. So I would recommend fruits and veggies with lower water content. So bell peppers, for example, like if a bell pepper were to freeze, it wouldn't be so hard that they'd break their teeth. I think a good rule of thumb is if you can bend it and maybe snap it, then it's probably fine. So if you were to freeze a piece of a bell pepper, you'd be able to break that. That should be fine. I think apple slices is another good idea. Just not something that's like sopping wet, you know? Tip #5 is to offer them more fruits and vegetables that are high in water content. So the fruits and vegetables that you don't want to freeze because they might break their teeth. So watermelon is excellent. Cucumber also does have a pretty good amount of water, so that's a great thing to feed in the summer. Lettuce is a really great thing that has lots of water. Celery. Generally, there's a reason that we eat certain fruits and vegetables in the summer. So if you associate something with a summer food, it probably is good to have in the summer because it grows in the summer because it needs lots of water. And then also we generally eat it because it has lots of water. That's kind of why we associate watermelons as summer food. That's when it grows and that's when we want to eat it. The 6th tip is to move their cage if you need to. You can move it to a cooler room, and another really important thing is to not have it by a window. So unless you have those windows where like the salesman threw an accident and nothing happened, they're like so thick and you don't have to put up hurricane shutters. Unless you have a fancy window like that, odds are heat does come through your window. Definitely want to move them away from that. If you're not able to, close the blinds, maybe consider putting an additional curtain or even like a sheet up, something like that, because you don't want direct sunlight on them. You don't want the heat coming from the window on them. Tip #7 is to put a fan near them. Now, you don't want a fan directly blowing on them. That can be really annoying and not great for them. However, having a fan in the room blowing like over their cage, just giving the room some extra ventilation so that heat isn't kind of settling in them and their hideys, is a great way to help. Tip #8 is to have open hideys. So a hidey like this is nice and open. Heat isn't really going to trap in here. Whereas like a tunnel or just like a blanket, a plastic or wooden hidey, those things, they can kind of trap the heat in. Anything that's gonna like trap smells in is gonna trap heat in. Tip number 9 is to freeze a water bottle. Kind of similar to like if you have a bruise and need to apply ice to it, freeze a water bottle, not an ice pack. Wrap like a towel or something around it. Again, we don't want them touching ice. If you were to wrap a towel around it, a water bottle, and offer it to them, then it's a nice cool spot. If they want, they can go lay near it, or if they're fine, they don't need to. However, I highly caution against ice packs, okay? Basically every ice pack is made out of stuff that is not good for your guinea pigs, and sometimes our guinea pigs can be a little dumb and chew on things that they shouldn't be, and you don't want that. Ice packs can have things like antifreeze in them. They could have like super absorbent materials that'll wreak havoc for the digestive system. They basically are gonna have toxic chemicals in them. They're obviously not made to eat. Our guinea pigs don't necessarily know better, so just don't put ice packs in there, just use a frozen water bottle. The 10th tip is a cooling mat. So there are mats specifically made for animals that they have like a fluffy layer with like some good airflow so that when your guinea pigs lay down, they're not just laying against their own body heat. There's a kind of a cushion layer in there where air can flow. Cavi, for example, has a cooling mat specifically for guinea pigs. Obviously, you could also use cooling mats for like cats or dogs. That's totally fine as well. Tip number 11 is don't take them outside. Lots of times I suggest going outside for grid enrichment. They can like chew on the grass. It's lots of fun. Don't do it in the summer. It's not worth it. They're not gonna get a lot of enrichment. They're gonna be miserable. So just don't take them outside. And tip number 11 is if your guinea pigs are normally outside, like they're in a hutch, move it inside. Please, 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 I'm begging you, if you can move your guinea pigs inside, do it. Honestly, I would rather your guinea pigs be in a small pet store cage inside than be in a fancy ass hutch outside in the summer. Don't do that, please. However, if for some reason you must, I don't know, maybe you live outside yourself, maybe you don't have a house. I get it. Put them in shade. Ideally, the shade is not their cage itself. So for example, if they're in a hutch and the sun hits the top of the hutch, that's gonna heat up the whole hutch. So ideally you have a separate layer on top where if the light heats up that layer, then it's not directly touching where the guinea pigs are, and it'll keep them a lot cooler. Put up like a shade cloth or like hang a blanket from a fence, something like that to give them a little extra shade. Or obviously move them next to the side of a building, something like that. Tip 13, if you have long-haired or medium-haired guinea pigs like this guy, you're gonna want to trim their hair, especially near their booty to keep it clean. And you're gonna wanna brush their hair because matted hair is gonna hold in heat as well, and also moisture and just gross. So trim and brush medium and long-haired guinea pigs. Tip number 14 is to clean the cage more frequently. The worst thing that can be paired with heat is moisture. So heat and moisture are like the enemy of everything. That is how you attract fungus, that's how you attract flies and other disgustingness. Clean your cage more frequently if you have to, if it's warmer. That'll keep them from getting things like bunglefoot. That'll keep them from getting things like bumblefoot, like some sort of fungus, fly strike, God forbid. Flies are gonna be attracted to their warm, disgusting, poopy booty. And tip number 15 is to monitor your guinea pigs regularly for health and specifically for signs of heat stress. A huge sign of heat stress is lethargy. In other words, if your guinea pig is really slow, if they're sleeping a lot, they don't really want to move, that is a really bad sign. That could definitely mean that they could have heat stress. Some other things to look at is weird breathing. So if their breathing is like really fast, like you're like, that kind of reminds me of a panting dog. If they seem like they're trying really hard to breathe, if they are drooling, if they're having a seizure, of course that's a thing you should take to the vet anyway, but it can be a sign of heat stress. If they are not eating, they've lost their appetite, and if they're not drinking. And if they're a lighter guinea pig, you can look at the spots on their body that should be pink. So like their ears, their nose, their gums, their feet. Those can be different colors. They can get like pale or purple. Those can be signs of heat stress or other issues that could be being caused by the bad conditions. And speaking of heat stress, of course, Make sure you're doing your normal health checks. If you are not quite sure what all you should be doing, I would highly recommend you check out my free guinea pig care charts. You can find them at kimspeakspiggy.com, but I will link it down below. And it's just a little chart you can print out. It's free and it has all of the things that you need to do and little boxes to check them off so you can keep track of what you've done. Thanks so much for watching. Hope your guinea pigs stay as cool as Ember is. Wait, your name's Ember though. You should be hot. I love you. Thank you for helping me.